There is a question that most men ask in the wrong direction. They ask what they can do to make her unable to forget them. The question assumes that being unforgettable is something produced by doing, by the right action at the right moment, by the specific word chosen carefully, or the specific gesture deployed strategically, or the specific signal sent at the specific time, that it is most likely to produce the desired effect. This assumption is wrong in the most fundamental possible way. Being unforgettable is not produced by doing. It is produced by being. Specifically, by being something that the mind cannot fully resolve in a single encounter. Something that raises questions it does not immediately answer. Something that reveals enough to be genuinely interesting and withholds enough to guarantee that the mind keeps returning to the unresolved portion, keeps turning it over, keeps trying to complete a picture that was not completed in the encounter itself. The man who is impossible to forget is not the man who did something memorable. He is the man who is something that the mind keeps encountering in his absence, whose presence continues to be felt after he has left, whose particular quality of being is specific enough and substantial enough and genuinely enough itself that no other encounter quite replaces or resolves it. My name is Niccolò Machiavelli. I have spent many conversations on this channel describing what a man must build inside himself to produce the qualities that genuine influence and genuine attraction require. Today I want to apply everything I have described to this most specific question. Not how to make her unable to forget you through technique. How to become the kind of man that she cannot help but keep returning to in her mind. Because those are completely different projects, and only one of them is possible. I want to begin with the psychology of why some men are remembered and most are not. The brain does not store all experiences equally. It stores experiences that are unresolved, that raised questions it did not answer, that produced a response it did not complete, that left something open that the mind keeps returning to in the attempt to close. This is the Zeigarnik effect that I described in an earlier conversation. The finding that incomplete loops occupy mental space in a way that completed ones do not. The open task demands return. The closed task is filed and forgotten. Every man a woman encounters creates some kind of loop in her experience. The question is whether the loop is open or closed when the encounter ends. The man who is entirely predictable, entirely available, entirely given, closes his loop completely in the encounter itself. There is nothing left unresolved. The mind has received everything he had to offer, processed it, and filed it. He is known. He is understood. He is complete. And completed things do not occupy the mind. The man who is genuine but not entirely given, who reveals something real while making clear there is more, who is interesting in a way that the encounter accessed but did not exhaust, leaves a loop that is still open when the encounter ends. And open loops demand return. Not because he managed his mystery strategically, because he genuinely has more depth than any single encounter can resolve, because the genuine substance of who he is exceeds what any particular conversation can contain, because his particular way of seeing things, his particular depth of understanding, his particular quality of being, is not fully accessible from any single angle of observation. This is why the development of genuine depth is the only genuine foundation of being unforgettable. You cannot manufacture the open loop. You can only produce it by being genuinely more than can be seen at once. And being genuinely more than can be seen at once requires the patient, sustained, genuine work of building something real inside yourself that is specific enough and deep enough that no single encounter exhausts it. Build the depth. The open loop will follow naturally. The first specific quality that makes a man impossible to forget is distinctness, not eccentricity, not the deliberate cultivation of unusual qualities for the purpose of being noticed. The genuine distinctness of a man who has done his own thinking, formed his own perspective, developed his own particular way of seeing things through the specific combination of his particular nature and his particular experience applied across sufficient time. This man does not blend into the background of her experience. Most men do. Not because they are bad, because they are similar. They have absorbed the same references, formed the same opinions, developed the same ambitions through the same cultural influences. Nothing about their particular perspective requires her mind to do something it has not done before. The distinct man does require something new. His particular angle on things, his particular observations, his particular way of connecting ideas that most people do not connect, forces a genuine cognitive engagement that the familiar does not require. And things that require genuine cognitive engagement are things that the mind returns to. Not because they were pleasant, though they may be. Because they were genuinely new. Because they introduced something that the existing categories could not entirely contain and that the mind keeps returning to in the attempt to integrate. This is why I have written throughout this channel about the development of genuine intellectual independence. About reading and thinking and forming perspectives that are the product of your own genuine engagement with ideas rather than the absorption of the consensus around you. Not for the purpose of being interesting. Because the genuine engagement with ideas produces a mind that actually is interesting. That actually sees things differently. That actually has something to offer that is specifically and irreducibly its own. Build that mind. Through genuine engagement with genuine ideas across genuine time. And then bring it into the encounter without adjustment or softening or the smoothing of its edges to accommodate the expected. The edges are the distinction. They are what makes the encounter unlike other encounters. They are what the mind returns to because they did not fit the existing pattern and the mind has not yet found a way to file them. Do not send them down. Let them be what they are. The second quality is what I would call the specific quality of your attention. I have described in other contexts how rare genuine attention is and how powerfully the experience of receiving it affects the person who receives it. Here I want to make the specific point about why the quality of your attention is one of the most reliable foundations of being unforgettable. When you give a woman genuine, specific, fully present attention, something happens that is different from what happens in most social interactions. She becomes more interesting to herself. The genuine attention of a man who is actually there, actually receiving what she is saying, actually responding to the specific content of what she has expressed rather than to the generic content of what women in general express, produces in the person receiving it a quality of experience that they almost never have. The experience of being genuinely thought about. Not processed, not received as an instance of a type. Thought about. Engaged with as a specific individual whose specific thoughts and specific observations and specific way of seeing things are worth the genuine cognitive engagement of a man who is genuinely attending. This experience is rare. And its rarity is what makes it impossible to forget. Because the woman who has had the experience of being genuinely thought about by a man of genuine substance does not immediately find a replacement for it. It is not available everywhere. It requires a specific kind of person to produce it. And the absence of it, after she has experienced it, is felt as a specific absence rather than as the generic absence of pleasant company. The specificity of the absence is what makes it impossible to forget. She is not missing men in general. She is missing the specific quality of attention that this specific man produced. The specific experience of being genuinely thought about by someone who was actually there. And because what she is missing is specific, the replacement of it requires the specific. Requires him. Or someone of equivalent genuine substance and equivalent genuine attention. And genuine substance and genuine attention together, as I have argued throughout this channel, are rare enough that replacement is rarely immediate. The mind returns to what it has not yet replaced. Be genuinely attentive. Not as a technique for producing this effect. As the honest expression of a man who is actually curious about the specific person in front of him and who gives that curiosity the full quality of genuine presence. The third quality is what I would call the emotional precision of genuine recognition. There is a specific and powerful experience available in human interaction that is rarer than almost anything else and that, when it occurs, is more difficult to forget than almost anything else. The experience of being seen with precision. Not with the generic warmth of someone who likes you. Not with the broad appreciation of someone who finds you attractive or interesting or pleasant company. With the specific precision of someone who noticed something about you that is actually there and that most people have not noticed. Something you did not say directly. Something that was visible in how you said something rather than in what you said. Something about the specific texture of your thinking or the specific quality of your particular way of seeing things that reveals you were actually paid attention to rather than merely observed. The man who can offer this kind of precise recognition offers something that the woman receiving it has probably not experienced often. Not because she lacks people who appreciate her, Because most appreciation is generic. It is the appreciation of the pleasant general qualities she presents, the attractive exterior, the social fluency, the warm personality. These things are appreciated because they are there and they are pleasant. The precise recognition is different. It names something specific, something that could only have been seen by someone who was actually looking, something that is genuinely hers rather than genuinely anyone's who presents themselves well. And being seen precisely, being named specifically, being recognized for something that is specifically yours rather than generically pleasant, produces an experience that the mind does not easily file. Because it has not experienced it often enough to have a routine way of processing it, it sits in the memory as something unusual, something that was genuinely new, something that required a specific quality of attention to produce and that leaves a specific quality of impression that generic appreciation cannot produce. Develop the capacity for precise observation, not as a technique for producing compliments that land, as the honest expression of a mind that is actually attending and actually processing and actually producing specific observations rather than generic ones. And when you notice something specifically, name it precisely, not to produce an effect, to honestly express what your genuine attention actually produced. The precision is the honesty of a man who was actually there. And being actually there, with the full quality of genuine attention, is the most unforgettable thing available in any encounter. The fourth quality is what I would call the texture of genuine mystery. Not the manufactured mystery of a man who has decided to withhold things strategically to create an impression of depth. The genuine texture of a man who has a rich enough interior life that the portions of it he has shared are clearly portions rather than the whole. The woman who leaves an encounter with a man feeling that she has been genuinely given something, that something real was shared with her that he does not share with everyone, and simultaneously feeling that there are rooms she has not yet seen, that what she received was genuine but not complete, that the depth she sensed extends beyond what she accessed, has encountered the genuine texture of mystery. This texture cannot be manufactured convincingly across multiple encounters. The man who is performing mystery eventually runs out of things to withhold and the performance becomes visible as performance. But the man who genuinely has more than he has shown, who genuinely has layers of understanding and experience and perspective that no single encounter exhausts, produces this texture naturally without management. Because the texture is the honest expression of what is actually there rather than the strategic management of what appears to be there. This is why I return throughout every conversation on this channel to the same foundation. Build something real. Build it with enough genuine depth that no single encounter can exhaust it. Build it specifically enough that it is genuinely yours and cannot be found in the same form anywhere else. The mystery is the natural shadow of genuine depth. Where the depth is real, the mystery is real. And real mystery, produced by genuine depth that is actually there rather than performed, is what the mind keeps returning to in the attempt to see the rooms it sensed but did not enter. Let the encounter give her something real, and let it leave something real unresolved. Not through management, through the honest expression of a man who has more than any single encounter can show. The fifth and most fundamental quality is what I have described across this channel as the quality of being genuinely at home in yourself. The man who is completely at home in himself, who does not adjust his fundamental nature in response to the social environment he is in, who is the same essential person in her presence as he is in her absence, produces something in the encounter that most men never produce. He produces the experience of encountering a fixed point. In a social world full of people who are continuously adjusting and performing and managing the impression they are making, the man who is simply himself, without adjustment and without management, is experienced as something different from everything else in the social environment. Not dramatically different, not obviously different, but different in the specific way that the genuine is different from the performed, in the specific texture of something that is real rather than constructed. And realness, in a world full of construction, is what the mind returns to, not because it is more impressive than construction, because it is more genuinely there. Because it exists independently of the encounter that revealed it. Because it will still be there in the next encounter and the one after that. Because it is not a performance that will eventually be dropped revealing something different beneath. It is what it is, completely and without apology and without the management that performance requires. And what is genuinely what it is, encountered in a world full of things that are not, is impossible to fully replace. Because replacement requires finding something equivalently real. And equivalently real is rare enough that when you have encountered it and then lost the encountering of it, the mind keeps returning to what the replacement has not yet provided. Be genuinely yourself. Not as a strategy for being unforgettable. Because the alternative, the continuous management of how you are perceived, the performance of a self that adjusts to every social environment, is exhausting and ultimately hollow and produces in the people around you the specific texture of something that is not quite real. Be genuinely yourself. And trust that what is genuinely yourself, brought fully into the encounter with full presence and full attention and full genuine interest in the person you are encountering, is enough. More than enough. It is the only thing that is ever enough to produce what you are actually seeking. Not the technique that makes her unable to forget you. The genuine becoming of someone that she genuinely cannot help but keep returning to. Because what he is genuinely worth returning to. And she knows it, even in his absence. Especially in his absence. I want to close with the most direct thing I can say about everything I have described. The question of how to make her unable to forget you is, at its root, the wrong question. Not because the desire behind it is wrong. The desire to matter to the people who matter to you, to leave a genuine impression rather than no impression, to have your presence in someone's life be something they would genuinely miss rather than something they would barely register, is a completely understandable and completely human desire. But the question asked in the direction of how to make her unable to forget you places the project on the wrong foundation. The right question is this: am I the kind of man who is genuinely worth remembering? Not because I have deployed the right techniques. Not because I have managed my mystery strategically or chosen my words carefully or timed my exits to leave the loop open. Because what I am is genuinely worth the mental space that being remembered requires. Because my particular perspective is genuinely distinct enough to require return. Because my particular quality of attention is genuine enough to leave a specific absence when it is withdrawn. Because my particular depth is real enough that no single encounter exhausted it. Because my particular way of being in the world is genuine enough that no other encounter quite replaces the experience of it. That is the question worth asking. And the answer to it is built, not performed. Across years of genuine engagement with genuine ideas and genuine difficulty and the genuine, patient, unglamorous work of becoming more fully what you actually are rather than more skillfully what you think you should appear to be. I spent my exile building that in myself without knowing that it was what I was building. I was not trying to become unforgettable. I was trying to understand what I had seen as clearly as I could and express it as honestly as I could. And 500 years later, I am still being remembered. Not because I managed my impression carefully. Because what I actually was, expressed in the clearest language I could find, was genuinely worth the mental space that memory requires. Build that. Not for her specifically. For the sake of being genuinely worth the mental space that matching to anyone requires. And then bring it into the encounter without management and without strategy and without the specific anxiety of a man who is trying to produce an effect. Simply bring what you are. If what you are is genuinely worth remembering, she will remember it. Not because you made her. Because she could not help it.